I'd love, thank you so much for joining me. This is one of my favorite things to teach about. It's goal achievement. I see some people are already here. I'd love for you to just drop in the chat where you're from because we have such a wide group of people. And thank you to Financial Sense for putting on this amazing conference. My name is Justine Lackey. I am here in the beautiful Hudson Valley, just north of New York City. We are having an amazing fall, and it is one of my most favorite time of year. Let me just pop over here really quick. Pittsburgh, Arizona, Maryland, Ontario, Los Angeles. Hi, Michelle. Oh, it's good to have some of my people are here. That makes my nerves a little less. The interior of British Columbia, Alberta, Nova Scotia. We have a lot of Canadians. Montreal, Edmonton, New Jersey. Yes, Jersey girl. I love it. I love it. Okay, awesome. Hi, Vanjie. Vanjie, you're on my list to talk about. Okay, beautiful. So I assume that my sound and my video are okay. I'm new to this platform, so if something go wrong, please just let me know in the chat. I have wonderful Davida here from Financial Sense providing tech support to me and you guys in the background. So I'm going to get started. While we are moving through today's session, I'm a huge believer in monotasking. I'm going to talk about that in 1 minute. But what I want you to do is, if you have a question, please drop it in the Q&A section on that vertical menu on your screen. The chat has sort of two rectangles on top of one another. The Q&A has two circles on top of one another. And Davida is monitoring those Q&As, and that's a way for me to keep organized to make sure that I answer your questions and I don't get lost in that chat. So before we begin, let me introduce myself. And I want to say welcome to this presentation today. It's Overwhelmed to Integrated, and it's how to break down big projects, right? Massive goals into a 3-step framework. So my name is Justine Lackey. I founded one of the very first virtual bookkeeping companies in all of America way back when virtual bookkeeping was done via zip drives and FedEx without online banking. So I'm dating myself a little bit there, but it's actually a badge I wear with honor. And I ran that firm for many, many years, and I sold it very successfully last year in February of 2023. And now I have a program called Bookkeepers Business Incubator. I started that actually in 2022, and I help bookkeepers and accountants run their businesses better. So don't actually teach bookkeeping. I teach you the skills that you need to run a business. So welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. Here's today's agenda. First, we're going to talk about the myth of entrepreneurship. And I know that's a little bit weird, but I have strong feelings about it, like I have strong feelings about a lot of stuff. I'm going to talk to you about the science of goal setting, because there is actual science behind goal setting, which I didn't learn until pretty late. I'm going to show you how to goal map. Right. And this is the 3-step framework, breaking down our mega goals into projects and then into tasks. I'm going to talk about the antidote to overwhelm, the power of planning, and then we're going to open up a Q&A session. Just before I get started, I'm going to take a little sip of water because I get so excited. Before I get started, I have a special request. And that request is you turn off any distractions for this next hour. I really want you to monotask and give this time to yourself to learn a new skill set. And we know now that multitasking is an absolute myth. And we also know that it's ridiculously hard to do that in the age of distraction. So my recommendation is you close whatever open browsers that you have. If you have 2 monitors, which I do, you'll shut down your second monitor, put your phone on silent, and just be present for an hour. And that's actually, monotasking is really feeds into this presentation itself, because monotasking is how we can get really big things done. So before I begin, I want to talk about the myth of entrepreneurship. And I know that some of my community members are here, and some of you guys might know me from various different social channels. But one of the things that people always say that they appreciate about me is my honesty and my candor. I really, like, I really try to keep it real. No, but I do. I really do make an intentional effort to be extremely candid and extremely honest about what my journey looked like and what it's really like to run your own business and firm. Because that's the best way that I can teach and help you. So I want to talk about the myth of entrepreneurship. And I'm so curious, right? Has anybody ever heard this about entrepreneurship? It's going to lead to success. You get time freedom. It's money, 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 money. Has anybody ever heard this? I would love for you to hit a little reaction. I see some smiley faces coming in. Is that why you guys became an entrepreneur and went into business? Oh, there's a lot of, okay, yay. People relate to this. And yes, I love it. I mean, I've been in the startup like world forever, and I get super excited about entrepreneurship. And all of this stuff is true. It can lead to success. And you absolutely do have time freedom when you can get to that place where your business is functioning, high function, right? And yes, you as an entrepreneur, you 100% have the opportunity to make more money than you would typically than you would if you were a full-time employee. But here's the getting real part. Entrepreneurship can really look like this a lot. It can lead to frustration. It can lead to big feelings of overwhelm. It can lead to feelings of lost, which looks like I don't know what my next best move is, or I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. So if you've also felt like this, I would like to see a reaction here because I'm curious if we have the same level of, yay, I'm so excited, but I've also felt like this person here, especially, right, maybe during tax time. Yeah, it's a lot. I see you. I understand. And it's important that we recognize that because when we can get honest with what that looks like, we can actually help each other more instead of all of us hiding behind the sheen of everything is amazing when it's really not. So thank you for being real and sharing because that's important. But why did this happen? Why are we like, yeah, we're gonna like start this awesome business and then we're like a deflated balloon? Why does this happen? I mean, I can speak to this really specifically. This happens because we live in the land of ambiguity. We live in the lands of ambiguity. And what I mean by that is every person who is here in this virtual space that we're sharing, and we know how many places we are all around the world right now, everybody here wants to be successful. You're here because you're on a continuing education journey. You're here in this room because you are about skill development. But when we say, I want to be a success, or I want to be successful, or I want to have my own business, or I want to have more money, these sounds like very specific statements, but they are not. They are very, very ambiguous. So here's where we fold into the science of goal setting. And we know this irrefutably now, is that people who choose clear, specific, and challenging goals are more likely to achieve them. So people who choose clear, specific, and challenging goals are more likely to achieve them. So let's take the example of I want to own my own business. I just did a vision building retreat on Friday for my community. And I love that you want to own your own business, but have you really thought about what that business looks like? I want to have a successful business. What does it look like? Because I will tell you this 100%. There is a right size business for everybody. And for some people, that right size is being a solopreneur. You know, optimized workflows using tools like Financial Sense and making as much money in as short of a period as possible. It's a solo track. That's actually the track that this presentation was geared for. A right-sized business for somebody else is they want to be the H&R Block of bookkeeping. The point that I'm making here is that when we say, I want to own a successful business, that is the land of ambiguity. When we say, I want to own a successful business, and that means I am working on my own 20 hours per week, making six figures or more. Or I want to be the first publicly traded bookkeeping company on the stock market floor by this date. These are two very different goals, but they're also very specific. They're not, I want to own a successful business. Does that make sense? Yes? Little reactionaries? Cool. I like it. Now, the other funny thing about goals is we know if we write them down, we accomplish more. So the first step here is saying, okay, this is the type of business that I want, but then writing it down. The act of actually physically writing something creates different neural connections in your brain than it does when we live in this land of ambiguity and things are just floating around. And when we do that, when we craft that goal and we write it down and we revisit it, we know that you're more likely to accomplish it and you're more likely to accomplish more. And this was a life-changing skill that I learned. So for those of you who are not familiar with my background, I just landed in bookkeeping. Like I literally just landed in a job in New York City. I didn't have a college education. I started learning books under a wonderful mentor named Celeste. And to hyphenate this story, it took me 17 years to graduate with an associate's degree. I just did that in 2009, but I didn't come out of a background where I participated in sports. I worked in corporate where they actually have quarterly and monthly goals. I didn't know any of this goal setting stuff. And so it was through the process of exploration and attending different events and working in different masterminds that I actually learned this process. And once I actually learned about crafting smarter goals, which I'll talk about in 1 minute, writing it down, revisiting it, and then staying accountable, my entire life changed. And really my business I was growing steady, like 8-12% pretty consistently. But then when I learned this, it completely changed my life. So I can speak from experience of what it was like to live in this land of ambiguity where I didn't really have any direction. I was like landing at my seat every day and I had these like loose ideas of what I wanted to happen, but everything was a fire. And you know, I'd start something and then I'd stop, I'd get distracted and start something else, you know, and really setting big goals in the beginning of every year, breaking those down was really the thing that changed my business. And it's helped me grow this second business that I now have. So we know that people who write down goals accomplish significantly more. But here's also a really important thing. We want to go after what I call the Goldilocks goal. You don't want a goal that's too big. You don't want a goal that's too small. You want a goal that's just right. And I'll give you an example of it, right? Because I'm on a fitness journey and I can talk about this also. But if I wanted to say, okay, I'm going to lose 15 pounds by November 30th, that is too big. It is just, it's an unachievable goal, right? But if I want to lose 15 pounds by January 31st, that goal, it's not too small. It is doable, but it's challenging. And so that's the thing. We want to craft your goals where you're really pushing yourself, where you're like, yeah, this is a little hard, and not too small where you're apathetic about it and you're not motivated. So this actually is super important. A way that I would also look about this is a lot of times we have revenue goals, and I am all about, everybody knows this, I will throw a stake in the ground for everybody making as much money as they can possibly make. I believe that there is enough business for everybody, right? But I'm also realistic and I'm also really strategic. So when somebody comes to me and they say, okay, I have 0 clients and I want to make $150,000 by the end of Q4 of 2024, I'm going to say, go for it. And then let me know how you did it, because I would want to know too. So I want to put that into perspective. The other thing that we know about goal setting is that accountability matters, right? Process is crucial. So accountability comes in 2 different versions. It comes in community accountability, right? And people might have experienced this in this group in corporate, where you're in a corporate meeting. It's like, did you achieve the goal? Did you not achieve the goal? But also personally, and I'll talk about how to keep yourself personally accountable. Also, let me just see, do I have, okay, I thought I had a little notification there, but I don't think so. Let me just double check. Okay. All right. So goal science begins with structure. We have to have structure when it comes to our goals. And I'm going to bring you back to this slide. This is the structure of science, the science of goal setting, and the structure is clear and specific, challenging goals that are written down. That is the structure that you need to have. So we know, we've heard this before, the SMART goal framework. I'm sure most of you guys have heard it. Actually, just give me a thumbs up if you have heard of SMART goals before. Thumbs up. Lots of thumbs up. Great. I love this. So SMART goals, the SMART framework, and there's actually something called the SMARTer framework, which I'll talk about, equals goal achievement. Written goals are the first step to achievement. It is a framework, and frameworks or structure are what lead us out of the land of accountability, ambiguity. We can also look at this from using templates, right? And something like Financial Sense. So if we have an onboarding template and it's built in Financial Sense, that's a framework. And that leads us out of this land of ambiguity where we're like, oh, wait, what do I have to do for onboarding? Oh, no, I have this framework. I have this template. I have this process, you know? And that structure creates the accountability piece, because now you know what you're supposed to do and when you're supposed to do it. So a SMART goal, just to review this, is SMART. You're looking to create goals that are S, specific, M, measurable, A, actionable. So that means we use a verb when we're creating our goals. R, relevant, and T, time bound. Deadlines work, friends. And you don't want a deadline that's like 6 months in the future. Bring it back. The closer the deadline, the more likely you are to achieve it. But there is something called the SMARTer goal framework, and this was developed by my mentor. His name is Michael Hyatt. You may have heard him before. He's written a number of wonderful books. In fact, the book that sort of led me on this journey, which is called Your Best Year Ever. And Michael flipped the SMARTer framework and he made it smarter. So he says our goals should be specific, they should be measurable, they should be actionable. Wait, there's a typo here. Relevant, time bound, exciting, and risky. I'm sorry, there's a typo here. The last one is risky. And that piece goes back to that challenge component, right? We want our goals to feel exciting. That is actually what compels us to complete them. Now, sometimes we do have to have goals that aren't so exciting, like get, clients' books out by February 28th, whatever it is. But we need goals that are exciting to keep us motivated. So I want to show you the SMARTer goal framework in action. I find with my students that when I can break it down into little pieces, they can really understand it, why we actually use this acronym. So here's the goal. I want to make more money. Who in this room wants to make more money? I'm always down to make some more money. All right. Yeah. Everybody's like laughing. I like that little, yes, money. We need a money emoji, Davida. All right. That's great. Yes. Yeah. Go. There's a lot of reactions here. All right. Everybody wants to make more money. Okay. That is great. I want to make more money is completely the land of ambiguity. A SMARTer goal is increase my income from 50 to 100,000 K by increasing my rates and introducing a new pricing strategy by December 31st of this year. Does that look different to you guys? I want to make money versus the bottom half of this slide. Oh, I got some wows on that, right? So increase my income from 50K to 100K by increasing rates and introducing a new pricing strategy by December 31st of this year. Let's break it down. Is it specific? 50 to 100K is very specific. So when you are designing a revenue goal, put your numbers in there. Is it measurable? 100%. By December 31st of this year, we're going to be able to see if we gained 50K in revenue. Okay. Is it actionable? Absolutely actionable. Remember, we talked about a verb, increasing rates and introducing a new pricing strategy. So these are the actions we're going to take. We're going to increase the rates and we're going to introduce a new pricing strategy. Is it risky? Yeah, it's risky. It's always risky when you increase prices. We know this. But there's ways to do it so you can mitigate defection. I talk about this all the time. Is it time bound? Yes, we have a deadline here by December 31st. We know we're either going to achieve this goal or not achieve this goal by this date. And we're going to achieve it or not achieve it by this amount. Is it exciting? I'll give that a heck yeah. I'll give that a heck yeah. 100% it's exciting. Now, this might not excite you. If you're, $1 million or a $2 million a year firm, maybe 50 grand is not going to be so exciting to you. But I think that it's exciting to many, many people in this audience. Relevant is huge. And I really want to talk about this, especially because I started building my firm when I was a single mom to two children and two young children, and they're now in college. But sometimes we can take on goals and we're completely unaware of what is happening around us. And I'll give you a really tangible, relatable thing. When we go into Q4, we think we have 12 weeks. You don't have 12 weeks in Q4 because, well, at least here in the States, we lose a week for Thanksgiving and we lose a week between Christmas and New Year's. So that puts us from a 12-week quarter to a 10-week quarter. Another thing that might happen is, you might have kids that are going through graduation. That eats up a lot of time. You might face a health issue and have some things that are going on, right? Like we might not be able to double our income or triple our income or increase our income if we know that there's a major life event that we're managing around our business around. And this goes back to the right size goal. This might have to be adjusted if you're facing one of these challenges right now. And that relevant piece goes back to not too big, not too small. You need to make sure that your goal is achievable, because when we can see ourselves achieving small wins, that gives us validation in believing what is possible. So if you set yourself up to achieve huge goals against the backdrop of a major life change happening, a new baby, something like that, you're going to set yourself up for failure. So a lot of times when I teach this goal setting work, people are like, well, what do you mean is it relevant? Well, that's a lot of that. It's about what's happening in your life right now or what's happening in your business. Make sense? Okay. So let's talk about goal mapping. How do we get here, from here to there? How are we going to make that extra 50K? So I want you to think of mapping like a road trip. And I'm always big on these analogies. I think they help people learn. So our goal is the destination. Let's say we're going from New York to California, right? New York City to Los Angeles. That's the destination. The goal is to make that 50K. From our goals, we need to break those down into projects. The goal is the destination. I want to get from New York to Los Angeles. Projects is the route or the plan. I'm going to stop in Nashville. I'm going to stop in Kansas. I'm going to stop in Texas and then Arizona and then in Los Angeles. I hope my geography was okay. I'm trying to figure out which way I would go. But so that's the route. So that these are the projects, or sometimes we call those milestones, right? And we break those projects down into tasks. So I'm going to leave New York. I'm going to go over we used to call it the Tappan Zee, but the Mario Cuomo Bridge. And I expect to hit New Jersey by this hour. And then I'm going to bang a right onto this road. And so our tasks are literally what we're doing minute to minute or hour to hour. So when we talk about this 3-step framework, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about goals, projects, and tasks. So the goal in this instance is increase my income from 50,000 to 100,000 by increasing rates and introducing a new pricing strategy by December 31st of this year. So what does this look like when we break it down into projects? Well, all right, I got to figure out how I'm going to make this revenue and how I'm going to create this pricing strategy. So first thing we're going to do is I need a financial model. I got to figure out where's the income gap? What am I going to do? And then I'm going to have to tell my clients about this new rate change. And maybe I want to create new packages. I want to go from this option to this option. By the way, as an aside, because I teach people about this all the time, sometimes when we change our rates, this is not for all clients, but if you have ever gone through a rate change, it can be very scary, especially if you're a solopreneur, if you're just building your firm. So as an aside, pro tip for this training is when we change rates, sometimes you have to have what's called a re-enrollment call. It almost becomes like a new sales call to get that person on board. I know that people don't often like to do that. But I will tell you that the value of your firm, and if you want to get to that, the motherland or the holy land of actually selling your business, it's not how many clients you take on, it's how many clients you keep. So we want to mitigate defection when we're talking about rate increases. Okay, side training, but I love talking about that because I want everybody to be millionaires. So different conversation. But now we want to break down these projects into individual tasks. So what does that look like? We're going to look at our projects again. Let's look at these again. We just outlined them. We're going to create a financial model. We're going to write a letter to our clients and or schedule client calls. And then we're going to create new packages. So these are the things that we know that we need to do in order to achieve this goal to get to the destination of getting from New York to Los Angeles, getting from 50K to 100K. So this can look different for you in many different ways. I will say, because I completely forgot at the beginning of the training, I designed a little workbook for you guys. This is not what the cover looks like. I didn't print it, but all of this is outlined. And when you get through this session, I actually walk you through this, and you can use this workbook to design your own smarter goal and to break down that goal into projects and tasks. So that's a free resource that's available to you. Davida can drop in the chat. It's the little puzzle piece icon, I believe. Nope, it's the resources section. So download that workbook for you so that, because it can be hard. I will tell you this, it's much easier to live in the land of ambiguity. That's why we all hang out there, because we're like, okay, we don't have to do anything. But okay. So now I want to break down these projects even further. So what do I need to do to create a financial model? Well, first I got to figure out who are my current clients. And then I got to figure out what their rates are. And now I want to throw in on those columns 3 different potential rate changes. Now listen, this is a hill I will die on. I'm a huge fan of hourly billing. Different story, but I would throw this into my spreadsheet, and how is this going to affect this, and et cetera, et cetera. You could do the same for packages, but Then you want to analyze your results, right? What's going to happen? How are things going to change? Are these tiny tweaks to my current financial model going to help me get to this $50,000 goal? And then you're going to look at it and say, does this timeline make sense? Sometimes we can really create timelines for ourselves when we actually stop and break down the goal in this way. We're like, wait a second, man, this is not possible. It is okay to adjust your timelines if it's going to help you stay in that space where you're challenged, but not completely defeated, right? That's another reason why we want to break these things down. Okay. The second thing, our second set of tasks, we had this project of write letter and schedule calls. Write the letter. I will tell you, rate change letters. Now we have AI. Thank you, AI. Grammarly is really good at this one, by the way, softening tone and things like that. Make sure that you send that letter to your team members, to a partner, to a business bestie, and just get feedback on it. A lot of times we can write really lengthy letters trying to justify our rates. Don't do that. But really important. Then you got to calendar that date to send. A lot of my students will back out of rate raises because they don't want to deal with the confrontation. You got to put it in your calendar. What gets scheduled is what gets done. You're going to set up scheduling software because you're a smart person. You don't want to be bouncing back and forth to try to figure out 19 different emails to figure out a 15-minute phone call. And then, of course, you're going to book those calls. Okay, then creating new packages. If you're a fan of package pricing, look at the competitors. What are they offering? I'm a huge fan of customer surveys, asking people what they want, what they need. And then the reason in this instance I would do a customer survey is, am I providing my clients with everything that they want? Maybe that there's things that they need that I don't deliver. And if I feel like I can deliver them with excellence, right? Not leading somebody along and making an empty promise. But if I can really, truly provide that, maybe I'll fold those into my new packages. Oh, awesome. Now I have new packages. Well, I have to update the website. And actually updating the website would even be further, right? Write the copy for the new packages, post, get your web editor or your web designer to update. So that actually in and of itself would have multiple tasks. So I promised you that I was going to talk about the antidote to overwhelm. The antidote to overwhelm is breaking these things down, because you can see when we're talking about going from 50 to 100K, that can feel really big. But if we can break that down into these projects and then projects into tasks, right? We're like, oh, wait, all I have to do is look at the competitors. I'm going to set a 20-minute timer and go look at one person right now. When we can start to break these things down and stay accountable, that's where we get out of overwhelm. We get out of overwhelm by actually giving ourselves instructions and then ticking those boxes. It's really important that you are measuring the gain and not the gap. Celebrating when you achieve something, and sometimes that is really small, is so important. Because if we don't remember what we've gotten done, we're constantly just chasing after that goalpost that we keep moving inside of our own heads. The other way that you can stay out of overwhelm is by staying accountable to yourself. So this was like one part, I think maybe just maturity, one part learning the skill of goal setting. It was one part of me, like I think entrepreneurs in general were kind of renegades, where I'm like, I'm going to figure this thing out on my own, like realizing that at the end of the day, it's me who's running this business and me who's in charge of my life. And so that yourself is an accountability lever, and then also your community or your team. So let's talk about that a little bit more. What does self-accountability look like? The self-accountability looks like weekly planning. I mean, for the very first thing is actually deciding what are your goals, writing those goals down, breaking them into projects, and then moving those projects into tasks and folding it into weekly planning. Every Sunday, sometimes it's not Sunday, but it's always before Monday. I sit on this beautiful couch back here. By the way, this is called the She Shed. This is a shed that I built during COVID to manage my children and my business in one place. But I sit on this shed and I actually sit with I have a weekly planner. I use Michael Hyatt's Full Focus Planner, and I go through a weekly planning session and I decide what I'm going to do, what I have to do from these big projects and these tasks. What is the needle moving activity that's going to keep me moving towards that very specific smarter goal that I've created for myself. Then I think this is the next slide, but then daily planning, right? And in the full focus method, which is a goal achievement method developed by Michael Hyatt, that's what we do. We lay out our weekly big three, and then we lay out our daily big three. What are my three biggest tasks that I have to achieve today to get towards my goal? Or sometimes it is just like keeping the wheels on the bus, but making sure that you have a plan. One of my very, very first mentors 15 years ago, an incredible entrepreneur named Angela Gia Kim, and I think she got this from somebody else. She said, time's like sand. If you don't make a plan for it, it slips through your fingers. And I love that expression. I still use that expression. So for yourself, as you leave this session, I want you to think about, what is your planning day? When are you actually going to plan your week, your month, your quarter? It is so important, and this is part of the writing component, to read your goals daily. Now, I don't read my goals 7 days a week, but I do read them almost every day. So I definitely read them on my weekly planning day. Deciding on those weekly and daily big threes. So that's really looking at the task component. Your weekly and your daily big three are those activities that you need to take a project off the list. And then this is something that I added, excuse me. I like that I turned towards the mic when I was coughing. This was a component that I added myself, is that I grade myself every week. How far did I get? And if I knocked 3 out of 3 off my list for my weekly big three, I get an A. Sometimes it's like, okay, I got 50% of this task and 75% of this task. And yes, I could average it and figure out the letter. But sometimes it's like, I have failed. But the act of me actually giving myself a grade and keeping it honest, we don't do grade inflation here. Keeping it honest lets me know when I have to recalibrate. Like, darn it, last week was a bomb. I've got to recalibrate this week and really drive these tasks home. So that is something that I have found very helpful. Community accountability. Community accountability that's your team. So weekly meetings, right? Breaking down your annual goals, your quarterly goals, and then bringing those into weekly meetings is extremely important. Your business bestie, you might have a colleague here that is attending Workflow Con with you. It might be another entrepreneur that you know in your life that's not even in our industry, but somebody that you can talk to about this. Facebook groups can be a great way to stay in the space of accountability. And then also masterminds can be extremely helpful in this scenario. But really staking that claim, it's really about writing it down, right? And it's not just writing down the goal, but then it becomes writing down the projects and writing down the tasks. The accountability that pulls all the way through this whole process. Writing down the goal is not enough. Staying accountable to the goal is not enough. You have to stay accountable to the projects and the tasks too. So that's my summary. I've wrapped up much quicker than I would have thought, but that's how you break down projects into a 3-step framework. We're going from goals, we're going into projects, and then we're going in to tasks. I really do invite you to leave this session, download that workbook, and give yourself a chance to really give yourself the space to dream. It is so hard in our world to constantly we're constantly working and we don't actually spend enough. I see a lot of times people don't spend enough time on the strategy and getting super clear about what the end game is. I would just to recap what we talked about, when we do goal mapping, we start with smarter goals and then we break down those goals into projects and tasks. That is the antidote to overwhelm, is breaking things down and staying accountable. Using the power of planning, right? Getting detailed in what our weeks and our days look like. And then using those accountability levers of keeping yourself accountable and then staying accountable in your communities. So really, it's all great stuff. I can't even tell you how much my life changed and how much my stress level dropped once I implemented this framework into my life. I'd love to connect. You can find me at justineLackey.com. My LinkedIn is there, which is just LinkedIn / in Justine Lackey. I'm on Facebook too. So I have a Facebook group called Bookkeepers Business Incubator. You can find us there. And I'm going to pop on over to the questions. Okay. So pop your questions. Remember the question, the Q&A is the one with the little circle icons. Teresa said, what would, oh, thanks for that, Davida. I see that. Sorry, just before I forget, Davida just dropped a link. I know that we have a newer group here. I mentioned onboarding as something earlier, but I have a free onboarding checklist. The link is there. Davida just threw it up. Thank you for that. If you are trying to design an onboarding process, if that's a goal for you, this checklist will get you started and it's totally free. So you can download that. Okay. What would be the best way of putting down my goals? Dry erase board, goal planner, software program, etc. So I use the Full Focus Planner. It's a paper planner. I love a paper planner. And I write down my goals each quarter, and then I revisit those daily. Amber McHugh, who is somebody I've learned a lot of goal stuff from, she used to send out like goal cards to her people. So this is like just one of my branded notebook cards. But yeah, some people keep it on a note card on their desk. I mean, I'm not such a huge fan of the digital format. I mean, just typing your goals into a software or screen, it's different. It's different. It's like it's like I come from New Jersey, and on Sunday we make huge dinners and like beautiful sauce gravy, like Italian style. It's like the difference between simmering gravy on a stove for hours or opening up a jar of tomato sauce. That slow act of writing the goals down, I think really makes a difference. And I think the science shows that. I love this question, Hannah. Do you wait to meet one goal before you're creating the next goal? So, yes and no. A lot of times goals have to happen in tandem, right? And we need to be working constructively towards goals at the same time. So now that said, if it is a huge goal, I would focus solely on that. So let's put that in a tangible way. Can you simultaneously create, let's say we're working in quarters, right? This quarter, you want to create a fantastic onboarding experience. And we break that down into all the things that need to happen. And you want to clean up your G drive. So you can do these two goals in tandem. And in fact, I would encourage it, because sometimes we can get bored and then we can start other giant projects that weren't even on our goal list because we are wonderful at distracting ourselves. In fact, humans will actually self-distract and self-interrupt. Now, let's say you want to redesign and deploy your website. Websites are a huge undertaking if they're very well done. And that would be like a quarterly goal. And that would be my main focus, because again, talking about that relevancy piece is what sort of goal can you take on with your current client workload? And that's another thing. Like every time you take on a new client and I get the desire to build the business, you take away time that you have available to work, on your business. So that's just something to think about. Um, but it's fabulous when you actually can check off a goal. So um, I say work in tandem, just as long as it's not a giant undertaking. We went through a rebrand, and I decided to do a rebrand with Good Sense. We moved from Good Sense Bookkeeping to Good Sense Management, and we decided to do that like during tax time, like at the end of the year into January. Why? I never know. Sometimes the top three, okay, this is from Sarah. Sometimes the top three goals take an extraordinary amount of mental energy. Yes. I need to have 3 conversations this week with business owners. Can send me into a tailspin. Any suggestion to getting over mental blocks? Exercise. I know. So simple. And meditation. I cannot express how important this is. When we exercise, right, you're talking about being stressed out. So what happens when we get stressed out? Oh, we dump adrenaline, we dump cortisol, right? So now our system is activated and our heart rate is elevated and we're flushed. And, that feeling that, you're right there on the edge of just slipping underneath the water and feeling like you're drowning. When you exercise, you are metabolizing cortisol and adrenaline. And I know it seems so irrelevant, but it really is important. And actually, walking will help us process problems in a very different way than just sitting there batting them. If you are finding yourself consistently overwhelmed, you have to chunk those things down. It might not be possible for you to have 3 super challenging conversations in 1 week. Then you have to ask yourself, or are you actually undermining yourself? When we consistently set ourselves up for failure, some odd little things can percolate up. That's when radical self-reflection and actually looking at how we're behaving in our business and our lives becomes really important. But yes, 3 conversations. Yeah. Jennifer, being a new bookkeeper, mentors seem to be very important. What's the best way to find a mentor? So I actually run a mentorship program. I have a community called The Nest. We just closed enrollment. The enrollment will open in Q1 again. For me, I just happened to, I luck found me. I don't know. I mean, I told you I landed in this random job in New York City, and I worked with a bookkeeper there. That was part of my job. And then I was able to find a tax preparer named Reggie Waldron, and she really helped me cultivate that component of understanding taxes. So typically, I mean, I think one of the things, and I just want to say this, right? I think that there's an assumption. It's not an assumption. The way that we currently understand a mentorship relationship is that it's unpaid, that somebody just comes in and cultivates your talent, and that absolutely can happen. I just gave examples from my own life. I also want to say that there's a lot of paid mentorship relationships. And with Michael Hyatt, I was in his paid mastermind for 2 years. I talk about this all the time. It was a $15,000 a year investment, and when you told me, primary breadwinner for my family, that I was going to spend 30 grand, I was choking. I was like, this is like impossible, right? But it completely changed my life, and it was the best money I ever spent in my business. So I hope that helps. But also developing relationships with accountants, because your accountants will teach you a lot if you can find good ones that you can partner with. And accountants are always looking for great bookkeepers. So that's important too. Oh, Angela, I don't know why I'd ask you for $9. I missed a step apparently. Let me see if I can get that out. Sorry about that. Let me see. Wait. Okay. It was just emailed me. Okay, that's about, yeah, I haven't tested that link in a long time.
It got
Yeah.
solved. Don't worry.
Okay.
It goes to everyone's inbox for free. It's just the training that costs.
Oh, okay. Thank you. No questions. Rhonda Francis, is that you? Oh my God, Rhonda's here. You've been on my mind. So Rhonda was in my first cohort of BBI. See, I cry all the time. I told you I keep it real. I'm not afraid to cry. Can you please get in touch with me? And I'm coming to Florida at the end of December, so I would love to see you. No, it works, Justine. Oh, Dusty. I still have your card. It's right here in my drawer. Yeah. So Rhonda was in my program. I'm like, I'm so happy to see you. I hope you're okay. So she was in my first cohort from the 2022 to 2023. Was this session helpful for you guys? Have you guys broken down your goals and your projects into this sort of framework before? Yeah. Okay. Oh, Katie's talking about jumping on a trampoline. That sounds exciting and also dangerous. Meditation drives me bonkers. Whatever works for you. Yeah. Yeah. Moving meditation. A lot of people, yeah. Moving meditation is good. Yeah. Okay. Red gravy. The last I heard anybody's Sicilian grandma. Yes, my family is from southern Italy. It's an ongoing war. Is it sauce? Is it gravy? Okay, let me see. Okay. Oh, I miss you so much too, my friend. Any other questions? Anybody have a radical goal that they're trying to finish by December 31st and they want to drop it in the chat so that they can make a public declaration and move towards that goal? That's the other thing about accountability, because when we make that public declaration, right? Yeah. Get my first client. Yes. Heloise. Awesome. I love it. Oh, summary slide? Sure. Happy to help. Linda Atkinson asked me for the summary slide. So Dana, I've started my goal planning, but this helps so much. Love this. Loved it. Great. That's very helpful. Dina. Hi, Dina. Good to see you. Elaine, I love this. Thank you. Georgia. That's my daughter's middle name. Yes, I want to retire from my 9 to 5 and work for myself. Great. So now that's the goal. How are we going to do it? Right? What's the revenue that you need? How are you going to get those first clients? By the way, I talk about this because this comes up a lot, and I have had students who have left part-time or full-time jobs. It's really about mapping that out. Like, you might not be able to replace your full revenue that first year, but like, what's manageable? What sort of nest egg do you need to create to make that possible for you? Okay. Wait, hold on. I just lost it. This chat's moving fast. I love that. Okay. Mine isn't December, but by April, I'll be out of my Caitlin. I love it. And on my own. So put it on a goal card. Put it on a goal card. Like, drop that. Make sure that you don't lose that. Being ready for a smooth tax season with no working to midnight shifts. Julie, I just laid out by the way, tax time starts now, my friends. It does not start in January or February. It starts now. I just laid out a training that I'm doing with my mastermind today about that. A new pricing plan. Get that money. Love it. New course starting in January. So are you building a course, or are you creating a course, Christina Dodds, or are you participating in a course? Okay, Elaine, I think mine got missed, but I need to increase my income from 1,500 to 5,000 a month by December 31st. Okay, so I'm going to pause here. So a little live coaching for Elaine Williamson, who said her goal is to generate, she wants to go from $1,500, I believe that's a month, income to $5,000 a month by December 31st. One of the things that I teach my students, it's tracking their close rate, right? So what is a close rate? That's how many sales you close. So I would backward math this here, right? How many clients is that gap, that $3,500 gap? Let's say it's 10 clients. If it's 10 clients and your close rate is 50%, that means you have to have 20 phone calls between now and December 31st. So 20 phone calls. You have to have a lot of phone calls per week. And I'm sure that's stressing out whoever. Somebody said 3 phone calls in a week was like overwhelming, which I get. But so like those revenue goals, tracking that, connecting that piece, plugging it into how many sales you're closing is really important. Replace my husband's salary so he can come home to start his furniture building business by the end of the year. I'm like, I want a husband who builds furniture. I have a husband who takes care of chickens really well and does a lot of other stuff. 3 more clients by December 31st. Christine, same thing. How many sales calls do you have to have between now and December 31st? And where are you going to find those people? Creating a course. Great, Christine. I love it. Yay. So inspiring. Woohoo. And Elaine is so ahead of the game. She said she's already done the math for how many discovery calls she needs to have. Love it. Vanjie, you know I'm here for it. Partner with accountants. Georgia, you should really follow Nancy McLean. Was another presenter here. She's the dancing accountant, because that is like her life's mission, is to like create these beautiful symbiotic relationships between bookkeepers and accountants. And she has so much wisdom to share. Yeah. Okay. I think I'm going to get the, Davida, I just saw my little notes. Okay. My friends, I'm getting kicked off stage. I was so happy to spend all this time with you guys. Please download the workbook so that you can go and spend some time by yourself drinking a cup of tea and dreaming big. Davida, and to the whole Financial Sense company, thank you so much for having me. This was my first conference speaking engagement, so I'm super excited. I'm very grateful. Thank you, my friends. Yay.